So mom, dad, whose baby is this? And she's an amazing big sister. She and her brother were on coaching together, sitting side by side every week. Again, thank you all for all that you've done. So YTTers, those of you that you already know the drill. So we're going to present our certificates to you all at the end. And then those of you that got the incentive. So again, they had to save at least $250. But again, those that accepted the gauntlet, they've all saved collectively $15,000. So it's been an amazing summer of savings. So thank you all so much. Thank you, Trees Atlanta. Thank you so much. Dana and Willette, thank you. And Travis, it is so freaking good to see you again, man. I love you guys. Thank you for making us family. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Auntie D. So as we're paying all of your young men and women, we want to make sure that they are learning to use their money responsibly and that they're getting a really good head start. So we so appreciate CSE and also Deirdre and Dr. Rhonda and all of her partners to make this happen. We wouldn't be able to do it without them. So we're going to keep moving forward. I'm going to introduce Willette Jackson. Willette Jackson is our workforce development and engagement supervisor. She supervises the Youth Tree team, and she definitely embodies what it means to work hard, take initiative, and also to grow despite what your title is, because she's one of our employees who has moved up over the past 6 years from one of our forestry techs to become the supervisor of this program. So Willette is going to continue on with the presentation with some acknowledgements and some awards, and then she's also going to introduce the student presentation portion of today.
Thank you, Dana, for the introduction. First, I just want to shout out to the YTT members. It's like a blessing to watch like such young students have so much knowledge and to work really hard. I remember telling them at the beginning of the program that I don't remember my friends being this wise and this smart at this age. So the parents are doing a great job with raising such amazing students. So I'm going to hop into just some awards. These students did amazing, showing up and just doing more than we asked. So I'm going to just do some announcements. And I first would like to introduce the staff of YTT that really helped me lead the team. Without them, this would not have been a successful summer. Okay, all right. But yes, and happy birthday, Simon. So I'm gonna just shout out to the senior leads. First, I have Megan. I have Tony. I have Will. Jabari. And TR, he's not here today, but they have done such an amazing job mentoring the students, really being there for them, listening, listening to their ideas, knowing when to like step in, but also knowing when to like listen to their students. So I, again, appreciate you guys. Oh. And tomorrow is Santana's birthday, so happy birthday. So we do have some high school graduates. Our program consists of rising freshmen all the way to graduates. Some of the high school students that will be graduating today have been doing this program a couple of years. So we just want to shout them out quickly. We have Ella, Evan, War Eagle. We have Joseph, Langston. Woo! So now we have our budding leaders. These are leaders that really they're emerging. They're our future leaders. Again, we have rising freshmen. So some of these students are fairly young, but they came to Youth Tree team and really showed up. So I just want to give a quick shout out and acknowledge these students. Deshaun. Woo! Dylan. Maaya, Gabby, Gerardo, Cortage. All right, high achievers, these students, you never have to ask them to do anything. They just do it. So again, I really appreciate you guys. Alex, Ella, Jay, woo-woo. Nick, Simon, Vincent, top performers. So we have two top performers. And they really just show up. And I can really cry right now for these students. They just really embody what a leader should be. And they just really led their team this year. So first we have Joshua. And Jasmine. So I really just want to say congrats again, guys. You all have done such an amazing job, you know, being leaders, showing initiative, really showing up this summer. So thank you again. All right, so next we're going to go into our capstone presentations. So the program is 7 weeks. The first month really consists of working with our different departments in the green spaces where we have contracts. So on the Beltline, we got our neighborhoods team doing tree maintenance. And restoration, so working on restoration sites. So that first month, they're really learning the fundamentals of what Trees Atlanta is about. The second month, they get to really use that knowledge and the skills they learned the first month and implement those things the second month. So they're able to really just take initiative and take that leadership in those presentations. This year we was at Fraser Forest, so that's one of the green spaces where we have a contract in, and they were really able to work with the education center there to really come up with a well-rounded presentation. So we are about to pull that up. So we're covering a couple different things. We have the history of Fraser Forest. We're also going to talk about invasive and native plants, also champion trees. We're going to finish up with forest management, and then our leaders in training is going to present on working with our green infrastructure manager building rain gardens. So if our first team can come up to present.
Hello again. Our team is called Top Tree. I'm Alec, and this is Dylan. We were tasked with researching the history of Fraser Forest. In order to appreciate the site, you must understand the history, and which is why we decided to look back to the pre-industrial and Civil War periods. The Muskogee are not one big tribe. They're a union of several, which evolved into a confederacy. Over 18,000 years ago, the ancestors of the Muskogee arrived in Georgia through Bering Sea, a landmass that connected Siberia and Alaska. Over thousands of years, these people developed many skills. Early Muskogee came from the Mississippi and Creek culture, which spanned along the Tennessee River. When Hernando de Soto arrived in Georgia, besides his army, he brought a few things, such as diseases from Europe, like smallpox and measles, which the native peoples had no immunity from. All these problems caused huge damages to the people and ecosystems of America. Later on, there began something known as the Indian slave trade between the 17th and 18th centuries. Because of all these disasters happening around them, the native peoples formed an alliance, creating the Muskogee Creek Confederacy, comprised of Muskogee-speaking people. However, on June 30th, 1830, Andrew Jackson signed a law that relocated all Muskogee to Oklahoma. This is known as the Trail of Tears.
This leads us to the Civil War. I won't go into too much detail, but essentially after the historic Battle of Atlanta, many of Atlanta's green spaces and landscapes had been destroyed. The war had a major effect on the natural lands of Atlanta and the lands that are now Fraser Forest. And so in the 1860s and 1870s, these lands had to be rebuilt and refarmed. And here's a photo of like the mass scale of the Battle of Atlanta. All right, so Fraser Forest location. So originally Creek and Cherokee land, Fraser Forest is located in what is now the heart of Atlanta, Georgia. The forest is a part of both the Druid Hills and Lake Claire neighborhoods. The forest is 39 acres with a 1.9 kilometer trail. Due to its location by Lowwater Creek, Fraser Forest has a 1,000-foot elevation of watershed. So site development. Joel Hurt was born in 1850 and was a successful businessman who bought and developed many acres of Atlanta's suburbs. He established many companies that serve Atlanta's infrastructure today, including the Kirkwood Land Company, which helped establish areas such as Fraser Forest.
So the Western Atlantic Railroad connects Chattahoochee, Tennessee to Terminus, Georgia. It's a main traveling point. This railroad affects all the areas around it because it creates more human traffic, which affects the ecosystems around it. So a watershed is a region of land within which water flows down into a specified body, such as a river, lake, sea, or ocean. The South Fork Peachtree flows from Tucker, Georgia to Georgia I-85. It is an ecological hotspot where many animals shelter.
The Fraser Forest was originally founded as the Cerebral Palsy Center and was founded by Ann Lane and Rebecca Fraser in 1949. It was made to help aid Ann's daughter who suffered from cerebral palsy. The school was renamed to the Fraser Center in 1999, and by 2006, the school offered classes for both able and disabled children and adults. So these are our sources, and that was just a brief history of Fraser Forest. Thank you.
Okay, so we will be talking about native plants today. Okay, so I'm Henry, and this is Alana and Partage, and we are a part of the Wild Wild Willows. So the first month of the YTT program was a foundation and an educational portion to learn the basics of tree care. Month 2, we implemented our knowledge to help fix Fraser Forest. For the past 2 to 3 weeks, we've been working at Fraser Forest for our capstone project. Our group focused on the native plants in the area, and we used the iNaturalist app to help us identify and confirm a wide variety of understory plants. As a group, we identified over 60 different species of plants. Native plants are a part of the balance of nature that have developed over hundreds or even thousands of years in a particular region or ecosystem. We as an organization make sure there are a majority of native trees and plants in the forest, and this is really important as natives support the ecosystem and can also help prevent erosion. Trees Atlanta removes invasive species and replaces them with native plants as needed.
Native Americans used native plants for medicines in that era, such as milkweed, gooseberry, willow, and spruce. Native Americans also used strawberries as a part of their diet. They would eat them raw, dried out, or even cooked. This is a picture of the native species, Hearts of Buston. It is better known as the strawberry bush. It is native to the east. It takes about 3 to 4 months to fully develop. It adapts easily to various weather conditions. It grows best in the summer and spring. And strawberries can also help your body by protecting the heart, guarding against cancer, and it helps boost good cholesterol.
Our next native is Huger's carry-on flower, which is a very rare perennial that we found by chance. It has simple leaves, blooms in March and April, and due to the awful smell it gives off, it is called carrion, meaning dead meat.
Our next native is a pawpaw tree. It was discovered by Native Americans, but found next to the Mississippi River. The pawpaw tree is native to the eastern states such as Virginia. It grows best in sunny locations, and when you crack the leaf, it smells like a rotting type of meat, and it takes 3 to 5 years to fully develop. They also have multiple vitamins such as vitamin A, C, and E.
Our next plant is Little Sweet Betsy. It's also a perennial with simple leaves. The berries provide a good food source for mammals and does well in semi-shade, moist, and well-drained soil.
Now we'll be going briefly over a few more other native plants. So this is the devil's walking stick. It got its name because it's derived from a shape of, it has like a lot of prickles on it and very sharp, and the color it's like very dark, so they call it the devil's walking stick. It is also mildly toxic. The next native species is a spice bush. When you crush its leaves, they have a citrusy, spicy aroma, and an aroma is a pleasant smell. And our last one is the May apple. Fun fact about it, it can help a fever, cancer, and liver diseases.
Next, we have river cane, a species of bamboo smaller in circumference compared to other species of bamboo, as you can see over here in this photo. Next is little brown drug. It is very slow growing and is used for medicine for heart and lung conditions by indigenous people. We found a lot of it on site at Fraser Forest in isolated clusters. Our last native plant for today is bloodroot. Indigenous people used it for many different things, such as dye for baskets and clothes. Bloodroot was also used to make tea to treat fevers.
So this is a northern red cedar that was in our zone. And we just thought it'd be cool to add. It fell down because of a really bad storm, I believe. And you can notice around it, there's tulip poplar and pokeweed. There's a lot of baby tulip poplars, which I thought was pretty cool. And then there's also turkey tail growing on the actual trunk. So, yeah. Thank you. And yeah.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nasir. This is Milo. This is Alan. And lastly is Jasmine. Our group is the Rugrats, and today we will be presenting on invasive species and plants. And the name of our presentation is the Rugrats X Invasives.
All right, so to start off, what are invasives? So invasive species are organisms that are often introduced by accident into a different area and tend to overpopulate and become heavy competition to the native species in that region. They're often very aggressive plants and cause native plants and sometimes animals to be driven out of an area, and they cause environmental as well as ecological damage. An amazing example of that is kudzu, because it's everywhere here in Georgia.
So the following slides are invasive plants that we identified in Fraser Forest Section 18. And these include limited to English ivy, Carolina cherry laurel, and Chinese wisteria, with cherry laurel on the right being the most bold and dense in the area. And we have we're not going to read everything, but in order, the information and these paragraphs address how the origin of the plant, how they spread, and some interesting facts about them and more. There's also a lot of monkey grass and Japanese chaff flowers, both being Asian natives that have adapted due to what? Keep going. Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, slide 5. Yikes. Okay. So we also found Chinese privet, big leaf periwinkle, and multiflora rose, which are also invasive plants, and they've spread due to their mass seed production. And a lot of the time, a common theme we noticed was that a lot of these plants have a lot of ground cover, so that creates what's called like an invasive monoculture, and that's not ideal because it displaces the plants that birds and insects and other components of the ecosystem would feed.
The leather leaf mohana is originally from China and was introduced in the 1700s. It is now invasive in Georgia and it spreads easily due to animal interactions. While working in Fraser Forest, we observed and documented all the plants we came across. Overall, we had many interesting findings. For startings, there was a large amount of erosion among the stream. This erosion led to unhealthy soil and exposed roots. The erosion is caused by heavy rain. Also, due to the heavy rain, there are a lot of eroded trees that have fallen. These trees were a home to a mass biodiversity of mushrooms, such as fragiles and spores and many turkey tails. We also found that many invasives are from Asia because of the same climate and similar climate conditions.
Right, so some interesting facts or just notable invasive plants that we found. Number one was Japanese chaff flower. So the cool thing about this plant is that it can be spread like very easily. You could just brush by it with your clothes and it will cling onto your clothes and then go somewhere else and it just falls off and then it plants and just grows in that area. The second is Chinese privet. It grows up to be a tall shrub and it has beautiful white flowers. Third is multiflora rose, and it produces about 500,000 to 1 million seeds a year, and it is known to be an excellent tool to prevent erosion.
Next is a Chinese wisteria or Wisteria sinensis. This plant is in the flower family and grows to 66 feet tall and 33 feet laterally, and it can live for over 50 years. Next is the English ivy or Heterohelix. It is used as an indoor plant purifier and herbal supplement. It starts growing upward on trees at an early age. Lastly is the winged burning bush or the Euonymus alatus, which grows up to 20 feet tall and 12 feet wide. It is used as an ornamental plant due to its bright red leaves in the fall. Next, what can neighbors and people do to help treat invasive plants and stop the spreading of them? The first thing you can do is find out what plants are invasive and avoid planting them, as well as inform friends, family, neighbors, and more of them and teach them the importance of not planting them. If you are already dealing with invasive plants, one way you can help keep them in control is by continuously pruning and trimming them to avoid severe spread and damage to environment. If you want to plant invasive plants, make sure to plant them in concrete surrounding to avoid plant from breaking through barrier and spreading underground. Or as an alternative, you could always ask professionals about non-invasive plant options because oftentimes these two plants have similar characteristics. If you are in an environment where there are invasive plants, check your clothes and belongings to see if you have any seeds, pieces of plants on your clothing, which can spread in other areas when you travel. Lastly is join regular volunteer projects like Trees Atlanta, which help with the removal of invasive plants to protect the environment and make it more sufficient for other living species. Thank you for your time, and that's the end of our presentation.
We're going to take just 2 minutes to get back online. And if anyone needs the restroom, you can go out this door, the door that you came in, make a left, and you're going to go into the building that says 579. And the restroom will have signs going through the auditorium. So if you want to take a quick restroom break, you can do that, and then we'll finish up. It's 11:46, so spread the word that we'll be back at 11:48. Okay. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna get started in one more minute, but let's go ahead and have our Champion Trees team get ready to present.
Hello, everyone. My name is Michaela Griffin Watson. This is Simone Corbin and Alex Mueller, and we are the Champion Trees group. So what are champion trees? Champion trees are the largest tree specimen of their species in their area. Trees Atlanta publishes a list of champion trees in the Metro Atlanta area. They are nominated and identified by community members and are then reviewed by trained champion tree volunteers. Each nominated tree is scored using a point system. So it's scored using the circumference of the tree, the height of the tree, and the crown spread. And while we were at Fraser Forest, we learned how to measure the circumference of a tree. So as you can see, you start 4.5 feet from the ground to up the tree, and then you use a measuring tape to go around the tree.
What did we do? There were 11 champion trees located in Fraser Forest. 3 of these trees have been identified as either dead or missing. 8 were marked with biodegradable tape. For each of the champion trees, we were given their species, rank, year nominated, circumference, and lastly, their height and speed measurements. This allowed us to correctly identify each champion tree. In order to do this, we were given a guidebook. Once the tree was identified, we used the circumference and height to determine its age. If the tree was found dead, we used its rings to determine its age. So as you can see on this picture, the more rings that the tree has, the older it was.
So here's the list of the trees we were given. The missing trees were the white pine, the shortleaf pine, and the serviceberry, and the dead tree was the northern red oak.
Next, we asked the question of how are we going to allow the general populace to be able to identify these trees? So we looked at some different options. One of the options is tree tags. This option is really inexpensive, but it can damage the tree and doesn't contain a lot of information. The next option was tree stakes. These ones are simple to install and can contain a large amount of information, but they're more expensive and they can get vandalized more easily. There are also hanging tree tags, which can have a little bit more information than the normal tree tags, but less information than the tree stakes. These are also significantly less expensive than the tree stakes. However, they can be really difficult to implement on trees with higher limbs.
So these are a couple examples of each of the champion tree labelings. So first we have a tree stake on a white oak at Deep Dean Park. And then we have a post oak and Southern Red Oak Jeremiah S. Gilbert House. Sorry, that was a lot. We have a plaque and it holds more information. And then we have the Spanish chestnut at Wright Park Arboretum, which can also damage the tree, as Alex said.
Next, we created a tour route to view some of the more interesting of these trees. So the tour route starts at the main building, which is that large white building featured on the map, and it goes around in a circular pattern, getting you back to where you started. You're going to be able to see the bitternut hickory, the white basswood, another bitternut hickory, which is also a champion tree, the sweet gum, American beech, and the rhododendron, all of which are champion trees. And these are our sources. And thank you so much for listening.
Hello, I'm Gabby and I'm representing the Argonauts, along with Santana, Maya, Morgan, Evan, and Ethan. And we are responsible for the Fraser Forest management part of the presentation.
This is the Fraser Forest Trail View and its attributes. It consists of a 1.2-mile loop trail. It has low intensity, an elevation gain of 85 feet. Portions of it are closed for restoration. It takes an average of 26 minutes to complete. The trail is completely shaded by forest canopy. The trail is only available to pedestrians.
The impact of going off trails. The impact of going off trails is that it harms or destroys plant species. This is done by tree carving, messing with the environment of plants, or it could be also done by tearing out pieces of the plants that you want to take home. You can see an example of tree carving in the bottom right image. Then going off trail also compacts and erodes soil. It erodes soil by rivers and streams, and after a while you could see ditches and grooves where people have walked. It also compacts the soil in the forest where you could see a clear path visible, as you can see in the top right image. This going off trail also spreads invasive plants, as we heard the hitchhiker seed, the chaff flower, covered by Milo's presentation earlier. And it also just ruins the natural beauty of the park with things like littering and also pet waste being seen on the trail.
Forest trail protection. Trail protection is very helpful when it comes to a trail. A few examples of good trail protection are on-trail signs, emergency outlets, maps of the trail, distance markers, bridges in wetland areas, fences to prevent people from going off of the trail, and receptacles and bags for pet waste.
Here are causes of increased creek erosion in urban areas. When a lot of rain falls quickly, it cannot soak into the ground. Instead, it rushes off land and into creeks. Urban areas are impacted more due to urbanization. The materials ended up by runoff carried into bodies of water. Runoff is an important part of erosion. Now here are creek erosion prevention. Stones can help slow down water to allow ground infiltration as shown in this picture. And sandbags can also be used as barriers to redirect moving water.
Okay, so I'm going to talk about the benefits of dead trees and logs. So a lot of the time in less well-maintained forest, when a tree dies, they'll usually cut it down immediately and haul it off somewhere to either be turned into mulch or just put somewhere to go away. But what you actually want to do is leave those trees in the forest so that they can fall naturally and decompose. So some benefits of dead trees and logs are providing habitats for animals like bats, squirrels, raccoons, and birds. And they can also provide food sources for important microorganisms like mosses, bugs, lichens, and other fungi. And they can also provide hiding places for smaller animals like birds or rabbits. They can also provide lookout points for larger, like predator animals, like hawks, eagles, or falcons, which we have quite a few of in Georgia. And when the tree does eventually fall down and start decomposing, it returns all those nutrients to the soil, which can allow further generations of trees to grow up in their place.
Okay, so I'll talk about leaf litter. Leaf litter is a natural component of almost every single forest floor. It's made from the shed leaves of old trees and acts almost as a mulch that provides nutrients to the soil that's great for mushrooms and other insects or wildlife living underground. Done. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. We are the leaders in training for the 2022 Youth Tree Team cohort. I'm Josh. This is Cecilia. This is Ella. And we're here to tell you a little bit about what we've been doing every single Monday for the past 7 weeks.
So let's start by defining what a rain garden actually is. So a rain garden is a garden of native plants that is designed to hold water from a rainfall event and allow it to soak into the ground so that it doesn't become runoff and cause major problems to the natural and built environment. Importantly, a rain garden is mostly dry. So a lot of times people think rain garden and think maybe a wetland, but no. Rain gardens only generally get wet during a rainfall event and in the 12 to 48 hours afterward as they are slowly soaking into the ground. So this model at the bottom shows the rain garden that we built at one of our sites. And as you can see, a whole bunch of rainwater is going down this hill into the area to the side of the house. And what it used to do was curve around on a track of erosion around the house. But now what happens is it's allowed to stay in one area and slowly soak into the ground. So let's talk about the importance of rain gardens. Rain gardens are able to effectively remove about 90% of chemicals and 80% of sediments from rainwater runoff, which is very important because according to the EPA, pollutants caused by rainwater runoff account for 70% of all water pollution. So taking out this many chemicals and sediments really helps clean up the water in the entire watershed. Rain gardens are also able to prevent the breeding of mosquitoes, and they let 30% more rainwater soak into the ground than a regular lawn. They prevent erosion by stopping water flow, and they soak up runoff water that would flood properties and cause major structural damages.
So for this specific work site that I will be talking about, we actually just visited to rebuild the garden after 2 pecan trees fell on it and damaged it. So we picked this site to build a rain garden because of 2 nearby hills that practically funnel runoff water right into the owner's property. And there were no sorts of curbs or any gutters that would stop the water on the street from flooding into the yard. And lastly, there's a huge drainage pipe that floods out stormwater right into the backyard. So during our building process, we had some trouble with a pretty slippery slope on the side of the garden, and it made it hard for us to carry down our heavy buckets of soil and compost. And personally, I'm just not a big fan of working on hills or slopes. And overall, the finished rain garden proved to be both functional and beautiful. And it prevents the homeowner from ever having to pay for any more sort of damage that from the water. And it also raises the value of the house itself.
All right, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about our step-by-step process of how we install these rain gardens. So the first thing that we have to do before we even consider anything else is we have to go out to the site and we have to assess how it is. We have to look at how bad the flooding is, where it is, and also how far away we have to build the rain garden, because as per city ordinance, it has to be 10 feet away from all man-made structures. So to install it, we're going to dig a hole or a couple if we're putting multiple rain gardens on the property. And then we're going to be backfilling that hole with a mixture of both healthy soil and the soil that's already there. And this creates just a really nutrient-rich environment for these plants that we're planting to live in. So after we're done filling in the hole, we have the berm or the wall of mud and dirt that we use to control water flow. And also we then plant the actual plants themselves to help soak up all that water, and they're going to really enjoy that soil over there. As you can see by the pamphlet that was passed around, we designed almost like a how to live with your rain garden type thing. So it really just gives some helpful advice on what you can do once you have one, which can include weeding it, not stepping on the berm or the actual rain garden if possible, because that can cause erosion that could create further damage. And also you don't need to water them, which is really nice. They're very low maintenance due to the fact that they get all the water they need from rainfall.
So let's talk about some of the materials we used. We obviously used lots of tools to create the hole in the berm and some organic materials, but more importantly, we used a whole bunch of plants, including coreopsis, hibiscus, and buttonbrush. And all of these were specially chosen because primarily they were native, which means that they needed very little maintenance. They are water-loving plants, so they were able to survive in this rain garden. They all have dense canopies, which helps slow the velocity of water and keep it from eroding any sort of areas around the house. And they all have very fibrous roots, which means they take in a whole bunch of water and stop its flow.
So this is our budget slide for the project. And as you can see, most of our costs came from the plants themselves. And it was a pretty expensive project overall, but the homeowner actually didn't have to pay for any of it since we were given a grant. And this is a list of the sources we used and the end of our presentation. So thank you so much for listening. And special thanks to Travis for teaching us about green infrastructure and letting us build these rain gardens.
All right, let's give them a round of applause again for such great information. So yeah, they really just embodied the project for both the Youth Tree team members, learning about Fraser Forest, and also our leaders in training really working on the rain gardens with Travis. So that's the end of our presentation for the capstone project. And great job, guys.